Namaste. Hello, everyone. Happy New Year's Eve. I'm here in Van Horn, Texas. This is a little bitty town. Stopped for the evening. I really don't want to be driving with all the people drinking tonight on the road. So I thought I would answer a question that I had received. It said, Namaste Guruji, could you please do a commentary on the Vijnana Bhairav Tantra? Why Lord Shiva tells Goddess Parvati that these techniques should be revealed to advanced genuine seekers and not to all. Okay. These techniques, everything that's given in here, is given for someone that's already has a Kundalini awakening going, and they're all techniques to bring the mind to stillness, to that dissolving of the ego. So none of these techniques are there to expand ego, to bring this growth. If somebody's wanting to grow in their knowledge, whatever, this is not for that. This is for realization, for those going towards realization, that want the ultimate truth, okay? Not for those that are chasing, forms and powers and all of these dramas. These are to go all beyond all of those types of things, to rest in realization, or that still mind, okay? So I thought I might see if we can go through this tonight. I'll read it, make a few comments. I'm not going to comment on every single one, or we would be here a very, very long time. But this is a very good text. I hadn't read it before. So it's called the Vijnana, and Vijnana is that wisdom of Bhairav. Okay, that wisdom of that Bhairav Tantra. So let's go forward and see what it says. And there's so many translations of this. So anyway, let's just go forward. Sridevi says, O Deva, I have heard in detail all that has been revealed through the union of Rudra and his Shakti, or what has emerged from the Rudra Mala Tantra. I have also understood Trika, or the three divisions of Shakti, which forms the quintessence of all knowledge. Okay. So when they're speaking of all knowledge, they're speaking of all that's known within the divisatory world. Okay, all the divisions of Shakti. Okay. O Supreme Lord, in spite of everything that I have heard, even today my doubts are not dispelled. What is your reality, O Divine One? Are you the power or energy contained in sound, from which all mantras have originated? Say, are you the power or energy contained in all? Well, it's what's prior to that. It's what makes that possible, okay? But indeed it is prior to that. But yes, it runs like a thread through all of that, through all of existence. Without that, there would be no ability for any power, for any sound, for anything to appear, okay? But it's in its still state, okay? In its ultimate state, it's what I call the pregnant void, okay? The pregnant void, it means that they are ready to come into existence, but it's at that still point. And once it starts to move, then it becomes Shakti, it becomes the divisatory. Okay, so let's go ahead and go forward. Can your reality be perceived through the 9 different ways by which one can enter the realm of higher consciousness, as enumerated in Bhairav Agama? Is it different from the procedure in Trishira Bhairav Tantra? Or can it be perceived through knowledge of the triple forms of Shakti, i.e. Para, Parapara, and Apara? These are my doubts, O Bhairav. Is it Nada and Bindu? Or can it be known by concentrating on the ascending psychic centers, or the unstruck sound, which emanates without any vibration? Or is it the form of the obstructing half moon, or else is it the form of Shakti? Is your reality transcendent and immanent, or is it completely immanent or completely transcendental? If it is immanent, then the very nature of transcendence is contradicted. Paratva, or transcendence, cannot exist in the divisions of Varna, the color, Shabd, sound, or Rupa, form. If transcendence is indivisible, then it cannot be defined or coexist within composite parts. So this is their mistaken notion, to think that it has to be separate from. But if it's separate from, how can it exist, okay? Well, it's the basis of everything, again, that comes into existence, but it's not touched by any of those things. Okay, let's continue to go forward. O Lord, be pleased to destroy all my doubts completely. Then Bhairav says, good, well spoken, O dear one. What you have asked about is the essence of Tantra. Okay. And like this path, the Vajra Nirvana Marg, is that same type of essence of Tantra as to which this is pointing to. The practices that are given on this path that I have made and put into place will take one to the same places that these practices are pointing to. How to dissolve the mind. Okay, how to allow it to still so that one enters that transcendent is. Okay, so we'll continue to go into this, and the people that are on this path will understand where these practices are pointing to, and the practices that are given here, how they accomplish the same end. Okay. O Devi, the Sakara aspect of Bhairav is insubstantial and of no spiritual value, like the illusory dream, like web of Indra, and also like the delusion of the celestial musicians. The Sakara sadhanas are described for those people of deluded intellect who are prey to distracted thought patterns. So let's look at this again. The Sakara sadhanas are described for those people of deluded intellect who are prey to distracted thought patterns or are inclined towards the performance of action and ostentatious rituals to traverse the path of meditation. So again, those types of people, this is not going to aid them. If you cannot hold your attention, okay, if your mind is completely distracted, then you're not going to be able to complete this path. Again, if you're into doing all the pujas and things like Nityananda does, yet he's claiming to give this type of a path, again, it's not for them. Okay, these are not interchangeable. Okay, you have the path of the ostentatious rituals, etc. And that's one thing, but that is not going to aid in traversing the path of meditation. Okay, those are for those that are staying out in divisatory dramas. Okay, those that are chasing divisatory dramas, this is not the path for them. This is the path towards Advaita, not Dvaita. So again, if you're chasing mental stuff, and again, you're chasing that, the New Age thing, name it and claim it, I'm going to be the co-creator with God. Okay, that's in that divisionary type of a path. This is not for that person. Okay, so let's go forward. In reality, The essence of Bhairav is not the 9 forms, nor the garland of letters, nor the 3 flows, and not even the 3 powers of Shakti. And again, this is why I have to, those who know me in this path with the Vijnana people were, sicking Bhairav on me. I only had to laugh. Because I know Bhairav intimately, okay, what Bhairav is and what Bhairav is not. And it's not what they think it is. So again, I have to just laugh, because unfortunately what they're thinking Bhairav is about 180 degrees away from what Bhairav actually is. Okay. So let's continue forward. His, Bhairav's form, cannot be perceived in Nad and Bindu. Okay, Nad is the sound, Bindu is the dot, that one point, that single point. Okay, nor even in the obstructed half moon, nor in the piercing of successive chakras, nor does Shakti or energy constitute his essence. Okay, so all of those things again are in motion. All of those things have to do with Shakti, the divisionary. Bhairav is something that is prior to that. Okay, so those things are not going to show it. You have to go prior to that. You have to still into those before that opens and one actually sees what is Bhairav. Okay. Okay. These things have been told about the form of Bhairav, like the tales used to frighten children, such as the tales the Vijnana people want to say about Bhairav. Those tales to frighten children, to induce people of immature intellect to follow the spiritual path, just as the mother entices her child with sweets, okay? Ultimately, that state of Bhairav cannot be measured in terms of time, space, or direction, nor can it be indicated by any attribute or designation. Okay, once again, it's prior to form. Okay, you're not going to see it, you're not going to visualize it, you're not going to understand it with the 5 senses. It is prior to that. All the 5 senses have to do with motion, divisionary, etc., etc., okay? This is prior, again, to that. So let's continue forward. One can have this inner experience for oneself when the mind is free from modifications or thought patterns. What does it say? When it is free from modifications, when nothing is coming up in it, springing to life, or thought patterns, the mind has to be still, quiet, okay? And I've had a lot of people that will come and argue this point. And I point them always to the text. You think I'm a liar? Okay? All I can tell is the mind is still here. That's when it opens, okay? If the mind is still going, if you've had an experience of it, and then you come out of that experience and the mind is generating thoughts again, then you're again, putting out the divisitory world. And then it's become an experience. It's not the ongoing reality for that one. They are no longer in Advaita, but have gone back into Dvaita yet again. Okay, so let's continue forward with this. One can have this inner experience for oneself when the mind is free from modifications or thought patterns. The Atman of Bhairava, which is known as Bhairavi, is then experienced as the bliss of one's own inner awareness, a state whose form is fullness, free from all contradictions, which is the abode of the entire universe. Okay, so for that one, I would call that more like witness state. There is still that I that's there. It's witness, okay? It's a more passive, and that natural bliss is there, okay? So that is the Atman, okay? Beyond that, it is not the Atman. of separation. Okay, it's not the Atman. There's something beyond that. Bhairavi means like that feminine. Bhairavi is that which is in motion, that first projection. Okay, Bhairavi would be the first projection of Atman. Okay, that self. But there's something beyond that. Bhairava is beyond Bhairavi. Okay, so let's continue forward. The essence of his nature is known to be free of dross and pervades the entire universe. Again, pervades the entire universe. It is within every atom, every molecule, everything that exists. Okay? But it's free of dross. It doesn't collect anything. Okay? Nothing sticks to it. Okay? This being the nature of the highest reality, who is the object of worship and who is to be pacified by worship. Okay? Who is it that's going to be pacified by worship? Okay? He's beyond worship. Okay? That which is interested in worship is that projection. But that which is beyond the projection is unaware of any of that. Okay? Okay. So let's continue forward. In this way, the transcendental state of Bhairav, which is described or sung of, is known by means of the absolute, or the highest form, that is Paradevi, the highest goddess. Just as Shakti, or power, is not different from Shaktiman, the holder of power, similarly, Parashakti, the highest power, who is the essence of the absolute and therefore identical with Dharma, can never be separated from Bhairav, the possessor of Dharma. Okay? In other words, this is just like you see you'll see Shiva prone, laying on the ground. Okay, it's the ground of being. Shiva is the ground of being, laying on the ground of being. Shakti has her foot on Shiva. They are never separate, one from the other. Okay, Shakti gets her power, her energy from Shiva. But she's the one in motion. Okay? For Shakti to understand even Shiva, she must also come to that still point, that stillness. Okay? So let's continue forward with this. Just as the power to burn is not separate from fire, similarly, Parashakti is not different from Bhairava. However, it is imagined as separate in the beginning, as a preliminary step towards entry into its knowledge. At first, you're going to think they are separate, but they're not separate, okay? And this is the wisdom that comes when everything dissolves into that is. One can see that they can never have been separated from it, ever. It's impossible, or there would be no life. One understands at that moment why also karma is in place, why it has to be in place, how the things of the universe work. It's immediately known in that moment of realization, okay? It's like a split second. Okay, all this knowledge is there. And this is knowledge not of the seen world, like, you're studying for this and studying to know all of that drama. This is what the fundamentals of the universe are, okay? How it is and how it comes into being, what fuels it, and what remains prior. Okay, so let's continue forward. One who enters the state of Shakti has the feeling of identification with Shiva without division. Okay? One first goes into oneness, then one goes beyond oneness. This feeling of an identification, a feeling of identification is oneness. This is what so many gurus speak of, oneness. Sort of like one, but it's not actually one. It's not actually Advaita. It's still in Dvaita, okay? But there is this connection where one begins to be able to feel as if they are, in fact, united. Okay? But oneness, make no mistake, is not Advaita. Okay, I want to make that clear. Oneness is not Advaita. You are still in the midst of divisionary in Shakti, and that's it. You have not entered that falling away yet. So, let's continue forward. Then one verily becomes like the form of Shiva. In this context, it is said that Shakti is the face of Shiva. Yes, Shakti, they say, is the face of Shiva or the face of Bhairav because it is that which is moving and presents in the phenomenal world as seen. Okay, again, Bhairav is beyond, prior to this divisionary, and it is not experienced with the five senses. Okay. The face of Shiva is all of the manifestation that one sees in the divisionary world. Okay, it's experienced with the five senses. Bhairav is something prior to that, more subtle than that. Okay, let's continue forward. Just as space, direction, and form are revealed by the flame of a candle or the rays of the sun, similarly, Shiva is revealed by the medium of Shakti, O clear one. Sridevi said, O Lord of the gods, who bears the trident and skulls as ornaments, tell me of that state which is devoid of time and space and direction and free from any characteristics. By what means can that state of fullness of Bhairav be achieved? And how does Paradevi, the highest Shakti, become the face or entrance of Bhairav? Tell me this, O Bhairav, in the manner whereby I shall know it completely. Okay, how can I get there? How can, how can I use Shakti to enter, to open that door? How is that possible? Okay. And very soon we start to get to some methodologies. Okay. Sri Bhairav said, Paradevi, whose nature is visarga or creation, manifests as the upward prana and the downward apana. By fixing the mind at the 2 points of generation of prana and apana, the state of fullness results. When the ingoing pranic air and the outgoing pranic air are both restrained in their space from their respective points of return, the essence of Bhairav, which is not different from Bhairavi, manifests. And in other words, when you get to that still point, if you can glimpse it in the midst, just before that begins, or that when that ends, in that moment of stillness, one can glimpse to that. Okay, let's continue forward. When Shakti is in the form of Vayu, or pranic air, is still and does not move swiftly in a specific direction, there develops in the middle, through the state of Nirvikalpa, the form of Bhairav. Exactly, Nirvikalpa is that still state. Okay. Hopefully, when one has done things right, they remain in a sahaj state, a sahaj nirvikalpa, ongoing, okay, ongoing state, okay. So let's continue forward. When kumbhaka takes place after puraka or rachaka, then the Shakti known as Shanta is experienced, and through that piece, the Bhairav consciousness is revealed. Okay, yes, when you have gone, and this is one reason that I teach the balanced breath. Okay, this is another of those types of things when you reach the balanced breath. Okay, one can enter into that peace, this Shanti, this Shanta, starts to manifest. So again, the balanced breath is very good for aiding when you have Kundalini as well, to keep it centered, to keep it, going in the direction it needs to go, to keep it stabilized, to keep it balanced. So one of the beginning practices here are the balanced breath. The practices, again, on this path are very much similar to the practices given here. They are all points of reference for one to be able to continue to do them and merge into the essence of it. Okay? Let's continue forward. Concentrate on the Shakti arising from the root, like the rays of the sun, gradually becoming subtler and subtler. Raj. Gradually becoming subtler and subtler until at last she dissolves in the Dada, Shanta, and Bhairav manifests. Meditate on that Shakti moving upwards like lightning through all the chakras, one by one, to the Dwada Shanta, and then at last the glorious form of Bhairav dawns. So again, this is speaking of one that's Kundalini is awakened. Okay, this motion, this Kundalini starts rising. But here I say don't be focusing on chakras. Don't be body focused. Just watch what Kundalini is doing as it goes through the layers of consciousness. Okay, one will go through 7 different layers of consciousness. Okay, and that's why we have the forum. The people that are going through that can understand what it is, and they have support for that time as they're journeying through these levels and these layers that take place. Okay. The 12 centers should be pierced successively through proper understanding of their associated 12 letters, thus becoming liberated from the gross. Then the subtle, one by one, at the end of its journey, the Kundalini becomes Shiva. There it is, the Kundalini becomes Shiva. Again, one goes through all the letters, and this is, again, responding to all your past karmas and all your past dramas you will go through. All of these things you've collected in existence, you will go through. You will navigate through them. Okay? And it's not to get caught up in these developing city powers, etc., that are happening. Not to get caught up in the gross. Okay? We don't follow the gross. These manifestations are going to happen, but that's not what you're chasing. Okay? Or these other things like Vijnana will say, the Shaktis. It's not about developing Shaktis and moving coconuts and doing these nonsense things. It's about continuing to go to that still point, continuing to cut through, to allow that mind to still, so that that ever-present is can come forward and the rest can recede. Okay. Then, having filled the tip of Murta, the forehead, and crossed the bridge between the eyebrows, the mind rises above all dichotomizing thought patterns and omnipresence prevails. Okay? The mind rises above all the dichotomizing thought patterns. The mind stills. Okay? And that omnipresent is known. It prevails. It's paramount. It remains, okay? Like the live, different colored circles on the peacock's feathers, one should meditate on the 5 voids. Then by following them to the end, which becomes the principal void, enter the heart. Again, allow things to become subtler and subtler and subtler. Again, on this path, we're taught to remain in the heart. Not in the third eye. Stay in the heart. Allow those things to settle there. Okay? Allow the things to settle. You do the I am that I am, the Om that I am from the heart center. Okay? Again, allowing that vibration to go, connect you with these things. Okay? I am that I am. I am that I am. One continues to do that. I am that I am, I am that I am, I am that I am. With the eyes open, Om that I am, Om that I am. Whatever you see, you are a part of that. Okay. So this at once expands you and then also keeps you in that center. Okay. Allowing yourself to dissolve into that void in the heart center. Okay. Which you'll find is not devoid. It's the pregnant void. Okay, it's the life of all life and the death of all death. So all of these practices are put into place to help to expand, to help you to focus, to help you to allow to still. There are other practices on this path which are there to cut through mind spin, to cut through things. These are only given to those that are towards the end of their journey, that have been in Kundalini for quite some time, and they've already gone through a lot of the kriyas and things. Okay, then they are giving specific mantras that are there to help to cut through the mind spin and cut through all of these different aspects that one engages in the divided world. Okay. Okay, in this way, wherever there is mindful awareness, and this is what you're taught here again, mindful awareness, to be present with what is in this moment. Not collecting, gathering a lot of things that the mind will want to attach to or push away, but to stay centered in what is as it is. Okay, either on the void or another object, such as a wall, or an excellent person, such as Guru. Gradually the boon of absorption into the self is granted. Again, all of the practices given are there for an aid for one to keep one's attention inward. Always inward. Okay. Also sitting here and you watch the mind. Where does the thoughts come from? Where do they go to? What gives them life? Okay. And we'll continue to go through this. I'm sure this will probably cover that type of thing later as we get into this text, or emotions. Where do they come from? Where do they go to? What is the actual emotion if you're not attaching and projecting it somewhere? Okay, what is it? You'll see it as a surge of energy. Okay, so let's continue to get through and see what their practices are. Okay, one should meditate on the inner space of the medial nadi, the Sushumna, situated in the central axis of the body, the spinal column, which is as slender as the fiber of a lotus. Okay, as a lotus stem, and then by the grace of Devi, the divine form is revealed. By using the hands as tools to block the entrances in all directions. Oh, this is when they're talking about you're blocking here and you're blocking the nose and you're blocking these are, okay, we don't espouse to do that, but that's what this is speaking of, blocking all these entrances, the eyes, the nose. So anyway, by using the hands as tools to block the entrances in all directions, the eyebrow center is pierced and bindu, or light, is seen. Being gradually absorbed within that, the supreme state is realized. Whenever one meditates upon the subtle lyre in the form of a tilak, like the mark on the forehead, or the bindu at the end of the shika, a condition of agitation and shaking is produced, followed by absorption and dissolution in the cave of the heart. Now you'll have different types of shaking, different things that will happen when Kundalini awakens. These kriyas will take place. You'll also find yourself doing spontaneous mudras. Different bij mantras will come forward. All of these things are not things that you were taught by rote to do. They will just take place spontaneously as Kundalini is making its way through the different centers, etc. Okay. One who is adept in listening to the unstruck sound, or in anahata, which is uninterrupted like a rushing river, attains the supreme state of Brahma by mastery of Shabda Brahman, the form of Brahman as sound. During the journey, one may encounter hearing the Om, And it's it's without start, it's without end. Okay. One also hears these various nods, the sounds, as one progresses through Kundalini. There are many different sounds that one will hear. Strings. For me, the first one was hearing birds. Hundreds of birds. At night there were no birds, but you're hearing hundreds of birds. I mean, there's just various sounds that one goes through in the different levels and layers that one becomes aware of in their consciousness. But again, also, one can become aware of the universal Om that runs like a thread through all of existence without beginning, without end. It's an amazing thing when one hears it and knows it's without beginning, without end. Once you hear it, the whole thing, but yet it's extended eternally. It's a very unique experience, okay? Let's continue forward. O Bhairavi, one who repeats the pranava Om perfectly while concentrating on the void for protracted periods experiences the void, and that by that void the transcendental Shakti is revealed. So that's again one practice that anyone can begin with. Stay in the heart center. Om. Again, one goes until it becomes soundless, extending it. Okay. Whoever contemplates even on the mantras or letters of Om, from first to last, in the form of void, verily that sadhaka by meditation on the void becomes the void. When one pointed awareness on the prolonged inner sounds of different musical instruments, such as string, wind, percussion, is gradually established, in the end the body becomes the supreme space. This is what I'm speaking of. These come up in the form of the nod. Okay. These are the internal sounds that one hears, different string, wind. You'll hear these different sounds manifesting. Okay, one goes into that sound, loses themselves within that sound. Okay, to open that doorway to what is prior to. Okay, by repetition of all the gross letters of the Bij mantras, successively, including the and meditating thus on the void within each sound, one verily becomes Shiva. Okay? You find that all sound comes from stillness. All sound has this element of stillness within it. And that's what it's referring to. You do the sound, but eventually you become aware of that still point in the center of it. Okay? Let's continue forward. All the directions should be contemplated upon simultaneously in one's own body as space or void. The mind also, being freed from all thoughts, becomes dissolved in vacuous space of consciousness. One who contemplates simultaneously on the void of the back, the spinal column, and the void of the root, becomes void-minded, completely free of all thought constructs or vikalpas, by that energy which is independent of the body. Again, every single practice here is to get one to continue to focus internally, to let go of the divisionary world, to go to ever subtler and subtler and subtler, keeping one's focus internally. Like I said, this is the internal, the mystic's path. It's an internal path. It's not an external path of doing pujas and all of these other things. It's an internal path, taking one to that still point. Okay. O gazelle-eyed one, concentrate upon all the constituents of the body pervaded by space, so that thought becomes steady. One should contemplate on the skin of the body as a mere wall, or partition with nothing inside of it. By meditating thus, he becomes like the void, which cannot be meditated upon. Okay? One becomes absorbed in the void. Okay, you can't see it. Again, it's not separate from. Therefore, one cannot meditate on it. If you're seeing a void, that's not it. Okay, that's not what's being spoken of. Okay, that's the void of the void. There's something beyond that, something much more beyond that, which is, again, pregnant void. Okay. O embodiment of good fortune, one who contemplates with closed eyes and one-pointed concentration on the mantra in the middle of the lotus in the heart space achieves the highest spiritual realization. And this is why, again, when you do the COS, okay, lying here I am the earth, Om Mani Padme Hum. It's the second part to that mantra, which is only given out to students that have been here for some time. Okay, but again, all of those, one is relaxing into that, seeing that revelation and seeing the inherent voidness of it. Okay, experiencing that transcendental, that one is also the earth, one is also all of these things. Okay, it helps to expand one's consciousness into letting go of this physical form as being some solid point that's unmoving, okay? So again, all of the practices that are given on this path very much relate to what is given in this Bhairav Tantra. They all point in the same direction. How to expand, how to still the mind, how to, get beyond this feeling of this subjective meism. Okay. By bringing the mind forcibly to Dwadashanta again and again, however and whenever possible, the fluctuations of the mind diminish day by day, so that each moment becomes an extraordinary state. One should contemplate that one's own body has been burnt by Kalagni, arising from the movement of time, and then at last one will experience tranquility. One is not this form. Okay? This form is only for experience in this dimension, but one is not this form. Okay? That's why I laugh when it said you have to make your form a light body. It's the highest realization. Well, it's not. Allow this form to basically see it as burnt. It's become nothing but this flotsam of this just, there's nothing left but ash. Okay? One is that consciousness. Okay? One is not this corporeal form. Okay? In the same way, having meditated with an unwavering and one-pointed mind on the entire universe being burnt by Kalagni, that man becomes a God-man or attains a supreme state of manhood. Okay? When you know that this world is nothing more than a dream state, okay? When one has experienced that everything here is constructed by mind, okay? By emotion, of movement, of thought. It creates what is seen in this realm. And one sees that, okay, and goes beyond that physicality into Bhairav, or Parabrahman, whichever you want to say, Parabrahman or Bhairav, into that still point of is. Okay? Then one is awakened. That's why they say, it's in Buddhism you say you're awakened. Okay? Because one knows the world to be the dream state. Okay? It's not this solid thing that people make it out to be that they're fighting with. Okay? The further one goes, the less real it becomes as a point of being solid. Okay? So let's continue forward. Dharana and those constituents which comprise one's own body and the whole universe, such as tattvas and tanmatras, from subtle to subtlest, leads to the source of existence. In this way, Paradevi, the supreme goddess, is revealed at the end of meditation. Having meditated on the gross and weak Shakti in the 12 Indriyas, thus making it settle, one who enters the heart space and meditates there attains mukti and becomes liberated. Again, this is why on this path we're not taught to do third eye meditations. It's to remain in the heart center. There's a reason for it. Okay? If you want to gain liberation, remain in the heart center. Because once Kundalini goes up, it has to come back and reside in the heart center. That's where it ends. Doesn't end up here. No, it has to come back again and dissolve in the heart center. Okay? So that's why this is given as it's given. By meditating on the entire form of the universe and the course of its development through time and space, gradually dissolve the gross into the subtle and the subtle into the state of being beyond, until the mind is finally dissolved into pure consciousness. Or I call it pure intellect without knowledge. Okay, it doesn't mean it's stupid. It means it's prior to any of these things that come up as constructs later on. Okay, so it's infinite intelligence. Okay, infinite intelligence that has not been corrupted by anything. Pure intelligence, pure consciousness, pure awareness, pure life. Okay, let's continue forward. By this method, one should meditate on all the sides or aspects of the universe up to the Shiva Tattva, which is the quintessence of all. In this way, the experience of the supreme reality arises. O great goddess, one should concentrate on this universe as nothing but void. Dissolving the mind also like this, one then experiences the state of laya or total dissolution. That's what I said. One becomes blown out. Okay? Nirvana, nibbana, being blown out. Okay? That's what happens. Okay? The idea of being this persona, this ego, one laughs. One has never died, never been born, never died. This whole construct of a story is gone. Okay, it never existed. It was a dream, more like a nightmare, okay? But it never was. It never had any reality to it, okay? So let's continue forward. I think we'll, at this point, stop because we're at 48 minutes. It's going to take me forever to upload, so we're going to do this in parts. It might take 3 parts. Because we're only on verse 26. So we've got quite a bit more to go, but this is a very interesting one, and I think one that's well gone through. So, namaste. Catch me on part 2.